needs of our drivers and really helping them with the opportunity to maybe get a preview of what's going on. And um, I'm going to see if we can get our person in right now. And I think this is our person. So, uh, hey, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. I'm great. I'm great.
I gotta,
Um,
I gotta say, I dig the American flag behind you. I actually, I used to have one hung up, but it kept falling down like behind me too.
you know what happens if this thing falls down? You got to properly dispose of it.
Yeah, yeah. I know. My buddy told me that. I was like, I mean, technically, it was on the ground when it was in the package it arrived in, but
You
no,
are right.
you
Um,
got you made a pretty big point about that.
yes. I was nervous when I got the flag. I read the directions, so I have it nailed up in three different spots all the way across. Um, it's a good conversation piece. Um, uh, we love our country. We're Americans, and
Yep.
if I was in another country, whatever nationality I would be, I would have my flag up. So I'm proud to have the flag in the back. Eventually, I'll change the background to maybe driver's ed or gaming, or I'll get some folding petitions and get a different vibe. But
Yeah.
it does make you feel good and feel proud. I sent you some questions. You sent me some questions. So we'll just kind of go through together. First, tell everyone who you are. You don't necessarily have to say where you're from, but just kind of give us your first name and, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Cameron Smith Randick. I'm a video game designer. I program in Game Maker Studio. I do pixel art and animation. I do. I also run my social medias, doing marketing and advertising, using algorithms and paid ads and whatnot. But overall, yeah, I'm a game designer.
I love it. Me being an OG, the original Xbox. Me and my friends get a day off work, getting the Xbox, playing it. I started out with Steam, just like everyone else, easy to download. Virtual Studio, Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, Modern Warfare, Rainbow Six Vegas, Tom Clancy Ghost Recon. So I'm that OG. NASCAR Thunder. I still have my original Xbox upstairs. I wanted to mod it, but I was a little bit nervous. This is kind of when Microsoft first came out, and I was up 3 or 4 in the morning gaming.
I'm sorry. Did my camera go dead?
It did go dead.
I actually don't know why it did that.
Keep going. We'll figure it out. Um,
Okay.
it'll come back on. We'll just keep rolling with it.
All right.
So I came with the OG games originally. My girlfriend, then now wife, her dad bought her an HP computer. I modified it. I put a 9600 GT in there, different power supply. I went from console gaming to PC gaming. Um, you know, Steam was my best friend, still is my best friend. Um, but overall, it's about games that teach you how to drive, teach you about physics. I learned a little bit like PUBG that has some physics in there. Currently, what I'm thinking about is creating a mobile game for beginning drivers that can educate them and teach them. We're just kind of touching on it right now. I think you may have to come back in. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I think if I exit and re-enter the stream, I know why it happened. I think it'll
Sure, go
fix.
ahead.
Oh, not close the stream. Okay.
Go ahead. But I think overall, guys and ladies, I'm an OG gamer. Always have, always will be. Even though I'm doing this social media stuff, I got my 27-inch curved monitor, baby. Right? Let's try them again. I got my 27-inch curved monitor.
I
There we
apologize
go.
about that. So it was a phone call. For some reason, I guess phone calls like turn it
Yep.
black. I clicked off, but that's what caused it. So All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just sharing, and it's about us collaborating. So currently, I got a 4070 Ti. I got a 10700K. I know it's a little bit dated. I will step to the AMD. Um, but when I want to do it, I want to have one set up for um, the social media stuff. The best. Right now, I have a 18 terabyte Western Digital for my storage because I was running out of storage. I had a 1 terabyte M.2, and with videos and games, it just wasn't enough. So I had that as backup storage because I make so much content. I have at least 15 gigs of content, if not more. And, I've been doing this kind of like 5 years, so I was running out of room. I have the View 4 tower case, water cooled. I've always been water cooled, a 360 radiator, blah, 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 blah. So, but eventually I'll get um, a sim setup. I'll start another YouTube channel. It could be sim racing with Myles. I'll have the 3 screened. I'll buy the simulation setup, direct drive. So that's what I want to do in the future. But let me ask you some questions and then you can ask me too. So for number one, what does your typical day look like as a game designer?
Yep. So, long story short, I definitely get to sleep in because I get to choose my own schedule, which is cool. But so I'll usually wake up. I'm actually up very late, so although I get to sleep in, it's technically I'm just staying up all night. Because all of the people I work with are in Australia,
Ooh,
Serbia, and Europe. So
wow.
yeah, I have to get on their sleep schedule because most of them are on a completely different clock than me. So I'll get up pretty much around like 5 p.m. sometimes, and I'll stay up all the way till like maybe 8 a.m., 10 a.m. in our time, and I'll get up. One of the first things I do is I go create some posts for social media. I'll schedule them for when they're gonna post, which will be on a normal time. um, then I'll go interact with any messages or, likes, any posts I got, comments, anything that people were replying to stuff. Sometimes I get bugs, like people find problems in my game where they like
Okay.
glitched through something, so I have to respond to those and figure out what that's about. And then yeah, I'll pretty much go and create some art. In most cases, sometimes I'll do programming, but we got a lot of the programming knocked out, so it's just creating art for the project, so you can like play in the game. But yeah, I'd say I'm more of an artist than the programming. I'm pretty slow at programming. I do it sometimes, but I eventually realized that it's better that I be a one trick pony than be
Okay.
good at everything and only do it halfway is good. So yeah, I have a programmer now.
I think people have some questions first. First, in my rig, I have a 10700K. I'm an Intel fanboy. I've always kind of overclocked. I do have a couple of smaller records on HW bot, right? I
Mhm.
pushed my old AMD chip to maybe 5.2, 5.3, nothing that's a world championship level. Um, I have a gaming rig, a 16 gigs of RAM, decent chip, but you gotta, so for you developing those games that I want to stay on track, first, thank you for sharing that. What are the key responsibilities of a gaming designer in the development team? You kind of mentioned what's one of your biggest key responsibilities?
Obviously, because I'm the one creating it and funding the whole thing, um, I'm responsible for obviously hiring people to handle whatever I need. So in this case, I have a programmer. I have some artists that help me because I can't do all the art myself.
Mm,
I was doing everything myself. I was originally doing sound effects, music, art, programming myself, and I realized that not only was I only doing it half as good as most people by doing it all myself, but
yes,
that the game was going to take like a decade to make. So that being said, I brought on some sound effect artists, some musicians,
awesome.
I brought on a programmer and a few co-artists. And my job, because I'm the one making the game, I'm writing the game and I'm delegating what each needs to do. So I'll give them each a task. I have like a whole spreadsheet, what we developers call a design doc. So we'll
Okay.
design an entire document of all the dialogue, all the things that need to be knocked out, and every needed asset for them.
That's really cool. That's so I see you definitely have that support team. You are delegating some of the responsibility. I'm not there yet, but me doing um, a co-host, me us collaborating is something new for me, something new for you. I'm learning so much from you. You got to delegate tasks. Everyone can't do everything. You've got to pass on some of the heavy lifting, and I understand that. And it takes a while to do that. And you know, if you guys have questions, put it in. I really appreciate everything you're doing. It really means like helping me drive. And we're trying to get you here. So we got some drivers ed related questions. So you're gonna love this. So you got to stay on. We got people popping in. There's 7 people coming in. Hey guys, let's get these thumbs up next. How you kind of talked about it. How do you find someone you want to collaborate with? Do they send you a resume? Do you see some of their work? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, I used to do these like, I did it for like a month straight. I just go through, you find a genre of game or genre
Mm,
of music or genre of whatever you're looking for that you like, and find people who are making like fan work of it or things
mm,
inspired by it, right? And just go through like all of these people, and over the course of like a week to a month, just mark the best you've seen,
mm,
and then send them all, depending on who you think would be a good fit, send them a message or a contact and be like, hey, I'm interested in what you're doing. So for my musicians, there's a project called Undertale and a project called Earthbound. Both were kind of similar to my project I was working on. So what I did is I looked for people who made, fan related or inspired music to those projects.
mm,
And I went through all these different people's music. I pinpointed like the 3 best ones I could find, and I sent them all a contact, and I hired them to do like, I was like, oh, can I pay you to do like a 30-second little tune? I paid for the work,
mm.
and whoever's I liked the best, I was like, okay, this is a good fit. Explained the vibe to them. So you do the same when it comes to programmers. That one you kind of just want to go to like Reddit or like a program
Yes,
forum, because and they're kind of always expensive because programming's just like a high in demand job. It's not really a
yes.
way to get a cheap programmer. Um, and then there's I mean, technically if you hire abroad, but the problem is anyone who's working abroad, if they can speak English, they're already making the big bucks anyway, right? So the only way you could get a cheap programmer is if you learned another language and then hired them from that country, because they can't get to the English market. Like, but that's really hard to do. Uh,
Okay.
then when it comes to art, you do the same thing you do with the music. Just find artists that are kind of pinpointed to what you want. And if it's a 3D game, you'd look at 3D modelers, another form of art.
Mm.
But yeah.
On a side note, I do have a 3D printer also. It's
Mm.
behind my curtain over here, and that I was making a lot of 3D things, cars, little figurines, little building blocks. So I do have a 3D printer also. Day's going doing good. Jamaica, we're talking. We got a game developer on here, game designer on. Feel free to put in some questions. Let me keep going with the questions. You're doing great. What skills are someone designer? What are the essential skills? If we have a lot of young people watch right now who want to do this, what do you suggest to them?
Number one, if you want to make your own game, right? You don't want to work on a game. If you want to make
Mm,
it, number one, you have to know how to write it, like what you
mm,
want in it, what it's going to be about, whether it's a story game or just meant to be entertainment. That's for you to decide, but you got to know exactly what you want in there. Number two, you have to have good leadership skills. Obviously,
mm.
you're going to have to like handle a whole group of people and manage a whole team. And number three, I would highly recommend picking one skill to actually contribute to the actual development itself. So whether you're going to be an artist, whether you're going to be doing the marketing, whether you're going to do the music, whether you're going to actually do the, programming, you should at least pick one skill out of what you're going to need to hire people for to actually handle yourself.
Man, that was really um, insightful, and it's helping me think. So we had a question here. What is, if you can tell us, what is one of the names of the games you are working on or have designed? Because some people might want to try it out. Can
Yeah.
you share with us if you can?
So one of them's called Away from Home. It's like a pixel rhythm RPG. So imagine like Undertale, Final Fantasy, or
Mm.
Earthbound, but you're playing to the beat. Another one I'm working on is called Pit Puzzle. It's kind of like Tetris or like Puyo
Ooh,
Puyo, but pretty much it's a multiplayer game where you can actually battle each other in the puzzle game and actually sabotage one another. There's another project I'm working on, but that one is kind of like long from being finished, so there's no reason in like talking about that one much. But those are the two main ones I'm working on. I've worked on a few for other people in the past, but these are the main ones that I'm actually releasing myself. So
this is great. Like, I'm a gamer. I've done a little bit, modifying characters, put in a little code in Half Life, not hacking, but just putting in some code, just modifying a few things before we start the game. I'm not a hacker, but you really make me laugh and think because there are a lot of young people who love games, who their whole life is games, and then they have an opportunity, and there's no one really to talk to. Okay, so how do game designers balance, how do you balance your creativity and technical constraints? How do you balance that?
yeah, that part it's definitely really tough. When you ask a question like that, one way I would compare it is if you're designing a board game
Ooh,
is so the technical constraints would likely be your UI or how you actually play the game, right? So if I wanted to make a board game like Monopoly, well,
ooh,
Monopoly is about actually owning businesses and entrepreneurship. So what they had to decide is how are we going to convey doing that, and but how are we going to make the gameplay feed into that? So the idea is, oh, we'll make them land on spaces and
okay,
charge them if you go on a space that's owned by someone else to make up for that. And we'll make it chance based, and we'll make it that you have to decide what's your best purchase, right? So it's usually whatever message or whatever thing you want to teach people, you need to make the gameplay revolve around it. So like you being a driver instructor, if you wanted to make a driving video game, you're definitely going to want to have mechanics of actually, for one, you're going to obviously want to drive a car. Then,
yes,
do you want it to be educational, or do you want it to just be like, something that someone can just play and drive around? If you wanted it educational, you might want it in VR because you want people to actually be in the seat of the car, right? Or you'd want it definitely in 3D so you can have like real gravity and physics, right? So
yes.
when it comes to UI design, you have to definitely know what kind of game you want to make and what you're trying to convey to people.
Do you have those questions in front of you that I sent you about driver's ed? Um,
Yes.
um, because we're kind of talking on creativity and driver's ed. Like here's my vision. I want to step to getting a Tesla. Use Tesla Model 3 long range performance. One, you have the Tesla cameras, right? You have all this technology to really innovate driver's ed. I think there's some opportunities here. There are countries outside the United States. There's some states here in the United States that are using EVs. Okay, it's not like it's so revolutionary, but um, uh, I would like to uh, get an opportunity to get probably a used Tesla in that 25 to $35,000 range. I already have a level two plug here in the house in the basement.
I gotta
So
say real
that
quick, that's awesome. I want a Tesla so bad as well. I'd love to have the self-driving feature as well, where it just drives you around.
yes,
So cool.
and hopefully when I get it, I will get you in too. That we will definitely do that. Let me, you can ask me a question. I can ask you a question. Tell me, talk about the creative process. Where do game designers draw inspiration? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
Yeah. So actually, as you mentioned, you've played games like Half Life or you were on
Yep.
Steam early. So you definitely got to enjoy honestly, some of what the game industry's best games were at a young age, which is lucky for you. I was, so young when those came out. I actually might not have even been born for those, but I have played them and I grew up loving them. So
Brother,
for me, it
you're
comes
gonna
from
keep going ahead. I got something for you. You're gonna love this, man. Keep
Mhm.
going.
Yeah, long story short, it comes from nostalgia. It's just kind of like when I was little, I loved doing it, and I'd love to create similar projects for people when I was younger to play.
Well, for me, I will definitely say this. One of my best overall favorites was Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, it's a first-person shooter, but you have your gravity gun. Have you ever played that before?
I've not played the death match. I've only played the story mode.
The story mode is incredible too.
Hmm.
You have a gravity gun, so you can pick up your gravity gun and you can aim at stuff and pull it towards you. A boulder, a brick, a hammer, and then you can actually throw these things at people. So that I used to be addicted to video games, right? Like I was ranked in the state and I was ranked in the country, but it takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of dedicating yourself. But it comes to the point where I was addicted to the games. I had to take a step back. So I'm just looking at my Steam library and I'm just going to throw this out to you. And then you can probably tell what type of person I am. So Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, Rainbow Six Siege, Call of Duty Black Ops, um, Rainbow Six Vegas. Love Vegas. Love the hotel, the scene going in. I've always loved Tom Clancy. Like
Mm.
his whole the movies, the books, and just kind of looking through um, uh, Blink. I'm just looking through Counter Strike is one of my favorite. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, The Crave, um, Left 4 Dead. Have you played Left 4 Dead?
I have. I have.
Oh my God, Left 4 Dead. Um, uh, Team Fortress 2.
Yep. Oh, I still play that one, even though it's so old. I still play it. That's like one of my favorite games of all time.
100%. Like these games will never go out of style. You can just escape and have fun and take a break. I got a question. Any tip with getting back on the road if you have fear of driving? Hey, let's talk about this for a second. Um, could you give some advice? I have a comment in here, and I think it'd be well worth it. A person had an accident. They have fear getting back on the road. Could you maybe share, or if you were designing a game, how would you design a game for someone who's been driving, but they had an accident and they want to get back on the road? What are some things you would put in?
Yeah, actually, to be honest, even just a game itself like that would actually be quite helpful, as it would allow you to
Mm.
practice everything, right? And
Okay.
even situations like I know someone who got in an accident because they were trying to merge lanes, right, when entering into a U-turn, but the
Okay.
person behind them that was already in that lane sped up and they didn't see the person and hit into them, right? So one idea, playing a game like that, or like even having a simulator game, would allow you to actually test out certain situations or where you're driving, even signs you might not understand, or like four-way stops, just understanding when's it your turn to go. And you could even have the car AIs to even have margins of error where maybe the other
Mm,
drivers sometimes have a 1% chance they will do something unexpected because they're messed up. They're messing up their driving or not thinking fully, right? So it's like,
right.
how would you react even to something unexpected like that? So, having a simulation game like that would probably help. But for getting confidence to get back on the road, um, definitely, I'm going to be completely honest. I've been driving for 4 years. I haven't crashed yet or been pulled over, but it's also because I drive very inconveniently. I
Ooh,
purposely
explain that, please. Come on, explain that.
Yeah, I purposely keep distance from all cars around me, and I never turn until there's no cars. It honestly delays the cars behind me, but like if there's a car coming, I'm not going to even take the chance to just zoom into my lane to just turn or something. I'm just going to wait
Yes.
till the road's empty.
Let's talk about this a second. I understand the value of community because I'm an OG gamer in Discord, my Steam community. These guys, we played 3, 4, 5, 7 years. Like we know when each other comes on, you know. We've had crazy conversations, but that's your community. That's where you can bond, you can laugh, you can have fun. Um, can you talk about your community for a second? Like if you're having an issue developing a game or you said driving, can you talk about your community? Can you jump on Discord? Can you jump on Reddit? I'm also on Reddit. And to be honest, it really gives you a fresh perspective. I posted some on there. You get a chance to see what's really going on in the world. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so with my community, well, I have a pretty cool community. A lot of them have been passionately following my work for a long time, which is really cool. And they're like really, really into it. Like they make like fan art and stuff, which is just awesome,
Mm.
right? Hey, real quick, Cactus Rocket Ship. Thank you too. You have a great day. Sorry,
Love it,
reading
man. Love you.
comments.
See you getting that
Yep.
love, baby. Hey,
Yeah.
and shout out your socials. Shout out your socials real quick to let's let people know where they can reach out to you because I want you to really embrace this. I know I am. I'm learning so much from you. Exciting. I'm thinking, man, me playing these games, driving games, first person games, the environment. I'm a big environment person when I'm playing a game. I try to what's around me, where can I hide, when can I
Mhm.
attack, how do I use, and you know um we were talking about community, so talk about that community for a second because a lot of people just feel alone when they drive. They feel alone when they're creating something. Could you speak on that maybe to a little bit more personal level where you said you can just go and talk to someone or interact with someone? Can you talk about that a second?
Yeah, so when it comes to driving, definitely it's good to be like have a group of people. Like if you have any friends that have done it, talking to them about what they do. Definitely always being weary. Like one rule I follow is I always drive like everybody wants to hit me, if that makes sense. And because of that, there's been a few times people have almost hit me and I've managed to get out of the way. Like I'm always checking my mirrors. Like when I'm gonna lane change, if somebody is behind me and they're just like going faster or something, I just wait for them to pass, even though I could easily just lane change there. I just don't trust them to stop. They probably would, but I just don't want to take that risk. So, sometimes it makes me have to go slower when driving or even like inconvenience, people. It's not breaking any rules or anything. It's just like the person
Exactly.
behind me will like, they'll like lane change around me and go in front of me so they could zoom by because they're going over the speed limit. But you get the idea is talking to people around you, talking to friends, seeing what they've gone through. When it comes to like game development, I have a cool fan base that likes a lot of the work I'm making. When it comes to community as a game developer, that one it's a little different for me because most people get into game development much older.
Mm.
Actually, like I'm really young doing this. I've actually brought my game to like 4 different conventions, and the youngest.
Talked about that 1 second. Are people amazed? Are they like you're so young? Do they are they amazed? Do they doubt you? Do you have to prove yourself more? Like let's pretend like I'm the marketing agent and I heard about you. I saw you. I saw this video. We're on a call. Do people doubt you or they're like, man, you're great. I don't care how old or young you are, man. I mean, what is the reception like? How do they treat a brother? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
How they
yeah.
treating you, my boy?
So real quick to answer Chloe down here, I'm 20, and for what you said, it's actually really interesting. So most of the people I meet at these conventions, the youngest I've seen is like 25, and even he was like the other youngest guy there. Like a lot of
Mm,
these people entering it are like 28, 30, like because making a video game is really expensive. Like
okay.
it's gonna be crazy when you hear, I'm 20, but I'm already into this project for like 150 grand. But I've been working on it since I was in fifth grade. And every
Wow.
dollar I've like ever made, I've been putting into it. Like, and even then, I actually have other small businesses I did before doing the game development. Like I even worked for a robotics company for a bit because I actually learned to like video games through doing robotics. I liked
Awesome.
robotics because it's like you're creating like almost like hardware like life. I think it's just so cool in a sense. So programming and making video games, you do the same thing, only you can create entire worlds, you know? So
I love that that you're creating worlds. There's so many young people out here who just need a direction. They need a community. And what I've learned through, you know, driving this last 3, 4, 5 years is really about a community. Reddit gave me that community. Going to Vid Summit 2 years ago to meet Mr. Beast, right? I met
yeah.
him. He's about 6'6", pasty, thin, white guy, big, strong bodyguards, but he took the time to listen to me. I showed him my thumbnails. Um, Going to and it was $1,000 to get in. I wanted to let you know it's not like free, but you're paying for access to people. It's not a fan thing. You want to go there to learn and
Hmm.
grow and develop and meet people who are like-minded like you. Um, and I'm always, my computer set. If someone pops in on Discord, I get a little thing on my phone. And I find that community is there where you can talk to people privately, or you can be on a call and hear other people. For example, there were YouTubers making 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, and the fact that I was able just to listen and learn. Be yourself when you go online, speak truth, bounce ideas off. Because one of my students, he does Lego animation, and he's starting to really like pick up. As I listen to you, I think about that. Hey, ask me. I got some hearts here. Let's keep it going. If you have that piece of paper that I sent you, ask a couple of questions about driver's ed, and maybe let me ask you this. What do you foresee happening? We got the Tesla, and if I would get an EV, it's going to be a Tesla because of the technology, hands down. I like the Ford Mark E, fine. The Traverse or the Blazer EV is nice, but if I had to choose, it would be a Tesla Model 3 long range performance because I love performance. Always have, always will. Love fast cars. One day I'll be in a wheelchair. It's going to be a fast wheelchair, the big battery. I'll be burning rubber down the hallway because I love performance. Always have, always will. Um, what do you think? And with keep fingers crossed, I will get that used Tesla, and we'll talk off air about that. But have you seen some of those technologies kind of trickle down into games? Maybe GTA. That's a whole different atmosphere, but GTA or some other uh, self-driving games. As I'm talking to you, I'm looking on my Steam library. And I'm just thinking, like, wow, wow, wow. What do you think is going to happen in the next few years with this smart car technology?
Yeah, I think it's definitely gonna I feel like a lot of people are gonna move towards that self-driving technology. Obviously not yet until it becomes cheap. It's very
Yes.
similar with, like VR games too. A lot of people don't make VR games because there's not enough people that own VRs, right?
Mm.
Because it's expensive. So if someone decided one day to make VR affordable, that would become a huge market, like an insane
Ooh.
market. The same would go for smart cars where, I want a Tesla, I can't afford a Tesla. I'd love the self-driving feature, but I'm pretty sure it's about $10,000 if to buy it.
10,000, 8 to 10,000, $99 a month.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
a month. I didn't even know that. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that being said, it's not affordable for the common consumer.
Got
Um,
you.
but as that technology grows and they advance in it, at some point they'll be able to make it affordable to the average person. And when that does happen, then it's probably going to take over. And who knows? I mean, even maybe everybody will have a self-driving car someday.
Hey, I'm listening to you. I'm kind of looking, and you're really making me think outside the box, right? Um, you know, I'm so if let's pretend we got like library. Um, I know it's such individual. What game should they be playing to really think out the box? Is it casual? Is it action? Is it adventure, strategy, simulation, uh, RPG, sports, racing, or software? What do you think a young person should be dabbling in to kind of spark?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting thing. It's more about, do you want to what's really cool about games is it's a medium for bettering yourself. Like I almost would say it's just another medium for a book, right? Like when
Yeah.
some book, one medium to tell that story is through a movie. Another way would be video games, Uh so if you want to like broaden your thinking, you could play a game like Portal, which is
Yes.
like a apocalyptic game where humans are kind of turned into like test subjects and you're a subject for it,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Or there's even games that make you like question certain moral, you
Ooh,
know.
yes. Yes.
Dead Space is another cool one. So it's kind of pinpointing games that like, get your brain going more, right? But in the aspect of like even driver's training, believe it or not, I did do segment one of driver's training a long time ago when I was 14. But after that, I didn't drive for 4 years until I was 18. And in between that time, I played that game Cyberpunk. And
Okay. Okay.
before I took the driver's test, I just drove around in that game as if it were real life, following all the traffic
Nice.
laws and everything. And I drove one time before that test and I passed the test. Like I didn't need like I didn't need to be refreshed on everything. I just followed the traffic laws in that game and yeah, it worked out for me,
So you
I
you said Cyberpunk.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to play that. Um, uh, so do you think young people still have an imagination? They still, or are they one dimensional? We're talking post COVID. What do you think young people are doing right now between like 7:30 and 10:30? Are they playing games? Like, I remember watching on YouTube the owner of Steam. He's a billionaire, right? He's a low
Yep.
key,
Gabe Newell.
chilled
Yep.
guy. You know, don't want a lot of attention. He's worth billions. Do you think young people are still playing those games? Still want to be taken off to a world? Where do you think they are right now?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like video games, especially since COVID, have kind of become an escape for people. Like
Yep.
people like to almost be in another world through them, or even like they'll work at school all day, or work a job and they go to those to kind of just be out of reality. Similar to during the Great Depression, one of the only industries that didn't fail or go down at all was the movie industry, because people would
Yeah.
go to the theater to escape the hardships of what's going on around them in their lives and whatnot. So I definitely feel like you know video games have been like that for people for a while. Uh, I do think people do still have an imagination.
Yes.
Uh, they also do. I think a lot of people have dreams, but a lot of people are too scared to go for it.
Woo, preach, baby,
People.
preach, man.
Yep, a lot of people have this fear that if they try, it won't work out, and like to imagine that if they were to have tried, if they just only applied themselves, they could do whatever they want, but they never do apply themselves. They're like, oh, if I got out of bed, I could do this, or if I actually put effort into whether it be art, or if I actually put effort into music or writing, you know, I could be so good, but they don't because they don't have the motivation to do so, right? So I think a
Preach,
lot of
brother.
people dream, but a lot of people don't have the motivation to actually apply themselves.
You're really making me just. I am artistic, and I think if you don't use these creative skills, they just fade away.
Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
lot of young people don't know how to write in cursive. I have to have them sign their name. They're like, how do I write in cursive? I'm like, they don't teach cursive anymore at school.
Yeah.
Um, um, and I think it depends on your parents. I'm an OG gamer. My son game, my daughter game. He's got. We don't have 360. We have Wii PC games. He's got PlayStation. I think if you have parents who are kind of into gaming, they'll you know their son or daughter will play versus each other, but something young people get very frustrated. They don't know how to problem solve. They
Mhm.
give up too easily. Do you think that's true too?
Yeah, I completely do. I think a lot of people, I mean, even some people I know, like I have a friend who's trying to learn art,
Mm.
and he's when he's drawing, he'll get halfway through and he won't like how it's going, and it'll just be like, "Oh, I got lazy," is what they'll say, right? So they'll finish it, but it will be bad, and because they don't want to admit that it didn't turn out well, they'll kind of just be like, "Oh, it's if I, I'm not trying on it," sort of thing, right? And a lot of them will kind of just give up a lot of the time when they're halfway through and it's not going well. uh which that's the problem, is they should finish it, and a lot of people, I don't think a lot of people also want to go through the effort of having to learn, like go like most people want to just kind of do things and be like, "Oh, okay, I'm good at it now because I've done it over and over again," when they're really doing it the wrong way over and over again, right? Like no one wants to sit down and actually do a class to better their skills.
Ooh, you are preaching so hard and so correct. Um, about challenging and problem solving, what are some of the biggest challenges a game designer will face in development? What are some of the biggest things?
Straight up money. You're
Money.
gonna run out of
Okay.
money all the time, especially if you're like a younger person doing it. That's why everyone that I've met doing it is far older than me. Is they save up so much money and have it in the bank, and they've decided they wanted to do this long ago, and they create a budget for themselves, right? And the problem too is if you want to do something innovative, it's even more expensive, right? Like we're creating one of our games is a 2D game that's pixelated, and we created it in a 3D engine. So it's like a 2D video game, like it'd be like something on the Super Nintendo, but it has the physics and engine of a modern AAA 3D game, which
Mm,
makes it, which is a very unique thing to do. But because of that, we had to create this illusion where we have a background that's flat, and then we have a skewed perspective sprite, and then the camera's also looking at it at that skewed perspective. So the game looks 2D, but it's actually in a 3D space. And doing that was just very expensive. And it's like whenever you want to do something innovative, it's just really pricey. So running out
and
of money is going to be the number one problem with game design.
let me ask you this. I'm looking at this my Steam. Um, and I want you to answer yes or no. Do you like multiplayer games?
Yes, yes,
Do you like single player?
yes,
Do you like massive multiplayer?
I do.
Do you like co-op?
Yes.
Do you like online co-op?
Yep.
Local multiplayer?
Yep.
Local co-op?
Yep.
Four-player local?
Yeah. I think I like everything, to be honest. Just like every game that I can think of, I could even like just list off a game that has each one of these attributes.
Asynchronous multiplayer?
Yeah.
Co-op campaign?
Yep.
I like whenever I play a game, I want to play the whole game through, understand it, then go on multiplayer. But what I'm finding on Halo Infinite, they have a massive multiplayer. They have the scrums. I like that. And if you get 3 or 4 players who can lead the team and you're kind of average, they can pull you through. But if you have a lot of bad players, when Halo Infinite first started, I want to say 2 years ago, one of my students said, "Hey, you need to download it, the free version." I'm like, "Bet." Um, I got up really high and ranked, but then I started dying a lot. It was more difficult. And then the ranking, I'm not complaining on the ranking. I don't complain. If you don't play enough and you're not good enough, you just won't advance up the ranks. So I noticed when I would spawn in the lobby area, I would be higher rank and I would have a fewer people who are lower. So if they did better than me, they would be pulled up higher than me. If I did better than them, I would go up a little bit. How do you like rankings of games where you have to compete and get something? Do you like those types of setups or no?
So I personally don't, but only for the reason that I always see it for what it is, right? Because I design games, and this goes for mobile apps too. Is
Ooh,
people see that number go up and it hits their brain with dopamine, And
Oh,
because of that, they're like, oh, I want to keep making it go up, and then boom, you're addicted, and you're not going to stop until you get your highest rank, and that game's got you trapped is what it does. It's smart. There's nothing wrong with it. That's just how they do it. That's why a lot of games turn to pay to win as well, as they start getting you to buy things. But yeah, I personally not. I never fall for it. I'll just play it and enjoy it. Like TF2, even the older game that I play, when I rank up, I'm just like, okay, I don't really care. It's because if you start to care, you're gonna get addicted, and you're just gonna be trying to rank up all the time.
you mentioned this. I see the trend in like online gambling. Like it's so easy to get set up, and they'll fill your account. Then once you get hooked, you're gambling your life away. Um,
Completely.
I want to talk about some trends. Uh, how has the rise of mobile gaming impacted the way you design games?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. I actually haven't done a mobile game yet. It's a lot easier to even do than what I do. And I really debate every day if I should, because I know a guy, and you could look this game up. I know the guy who made a game on here called Evo Creo. I'm not dissing him at all, but he just copied Pokemon. That's all he did. He just made
Ooh,
Pokemon on the phone. That's what he did. And he made millions. And I know this guy. He made millions of
wow.
dollars, and all he did was make Pokemon, but put it on a phone. That's it. And he copied it, rip for rip. It's just swapped out all the art, swapped like one mechanic so it's not copyrightable, and anyone could do this. You could even make it right now, and you made millions because it's just people. When you're making phone apps, you just take a popular title and just move it to the phone because other companies aren't going to do it, and then boom, you're making so much money. And I honestly might even do it at some point myself. I don't really want to because if I do that, I'm really just grabbing for money, which maybe I should, but I haven't done it yet, and I don't
I,
know if I will or won't. But
I'm going to ask you
yeah.
a question here. I have a client. She's out of the state. She has thrombosis, and that's when one of your eyes is crooked, off to a degree. If you could recommend a game that a person who has vision issues could use, is there a game that comes to mind that they could use to maybe strengthen their eye muscle?
Mm.
Woo! Got you there,
Yeah, I
baby.
don't know about that. I don't think there's one like that. I know they have some games with like colorblind settings, and like they have
Mm.
games where like if you have like physical like arm or leg or body problems, you can use like voice to play it. But no, I don't actually know of any that help your eyes.
See, we're getting some ideas here. We'll talk offline. Let, you're doing great. Let me keep asking you this. How do you stay updated on the latest trends and technologies in the gaming industry? How do you stay updated?
Yeah, so I watch obviously like I'll get some stuff recommended to me, but Reddit's a good way, although some
Yep.
people on Reddit are kind of crazy. So sometimes it's good to go so I'll sometimes just like you find some people on YouTube to watch that like will update you on it that you find to be rational and just go to them. So like sometimes I watch this guy called Asmon Gold. Like he's just a guy I watch sometimes. He's I don't know if like he's just kind of a really realist type guy. He
Mhm.
just kind of speaks his mind or speaks whatever he sees, and because of that, he's got a big thing for video games. So he'll just like go over, hey, this is the trending news on this game. Hey, this is trending in politics. Hey, this is trending in whatever. He just goes over anything noteworthy going on in news. So
I will say I use Google Trends.
mhm.
I lock it in, for instance, road rage. I get things sent to my phone all the time because that's an area where we're always confronted with by me driving drivers who drive slow or who might make a mistake. Everyone just goes crazy on this. So I'm like, I want to know those triggers because beginning drivers set off triggers to other drivers. They're going too slow. They used the wrong blinker. So I'm mentally prepared when I go out there. Um, I want to talk to you a few more minutes. What impact do you think AI has on machine learning and will have on game design in the future? Can you talk on AI first?
Yeah, so I will say I've dabbled in it. I know how to make it. I know how to use it. Um, I do think it's gonna do one of two things. It's either gonna kill the game industry, or it's gonna
Oh,
make it incredibly competitive. So what AI is doing, right, is say I make a game, right, and another guy makes a game, and we made it like in the current climate without AI being smart enough yet to do it, which it will be eventually. What's going to happen is the people only really have the options to buy me and that other guy's game, right? It's only our,
mm,
we're the only ones making games because games, you need to be smart to be able to make one. You need to be able to manage a team, be able to hire all these people because
mm,
only a small group of people are actually able to create it.
okay.
What AI is going to do is it's going to make everybody able to make a game no matter how established they are, right? You're
Hmm.
going to be able to tell
It's
it
going to
what to
level the
do, how to
playing
do it.
field.
Exactly. So, like, you know how, let's say you wanted to write a book, right?
Yep.
Anyone can write a book. And now, because everybody can write a book, your book is competing with thousands of years of people's books in writing.
Mm.
Whereas in video games have only existed for about 40 years now, and my competition is only 40 years worth of video games, right? But when you have AI, now anyone who could, the same way anyone can write a book and it's really competitive because anyone can do it, soon anyone will be able to make a video game. And because of that, it's going to make it very competitive when before my only competition was a very small percentage of people who had every single necessary attribute to make one.
So let me ask you this. I'm looking at it from an educational perspective. Look, our district has invested in ChatGTP. We had a professional development 2 years ago, right?
Mhm.
Some school districts want AI. Some colleges want. I'm not talking about writing master's thesis, 20-page papers. I'm not talking about it helping with the ideation process, right? Helping you when your brain is stuck. I'm using the driver's ed industry because that's where I am. A lot of this stuff is old, right? 10 years old, 15, 20. Why not use that AI to scrape all this old stuff, throw it into the computer, let ChatGTP, DeepSeek, okay, here's all this information from the last 100 years. I want you to pick the top 10 things that new generation drivers need to know. What do you think about that? Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Are we
No,
playing with.
that's exactly what it would do, and that's kind of what AI's purpose has been. So, one thing that's mind blowing about AI is it's always existed. Even to
Yep.
quote what it's called open source AI,
Yes,
and
sir.
yep, what it is now that it's it's open source, everyone can add to it and everyone can use it. These companies have already and have always had AI. In fact, I've seen some crazy, almost like insane, like insider stuff where some companies actually, before it was public, and actually for the past decade, were even using AIs to trade stocks. And that's like it's insane. It's just it was never an open thing for people. Now it is. So now, everyone's trying to do these things and use these things. But yeah, AI can definitely do that. You could structure or even create an entire company or shell company using an AI. Like,
So do you think, like for instance, people of color, females, they may not have the $1 million funding. You mentioned you're a game designer. Can you develop your own AI on your computer, your servers on your computer? We're not talking about Japan and China. It's on your computer. Couldn't you use that to your advantage?
yeah, so I've had a discussion with a few programmers of collabing and making AIs a few times. It's just the reason we haven't is as an artist, the like art industry has like a huge hatred for AI. And I hate to say this, this is like the sort of thing that gets someone canceled, but the problem is they hate it because they've invested their lives into becoming an artist, and now there's a new technology that can come in and do exactly what they can do without needing any talent, right?
But my brother, but that always happens. Um, look at my computer chip. It's a 10700K.
Oh yeah, I
I
mean,
can
I
push
know.
it to,
Yeah. one of my
I can
teachers, he
push it
went
to
to college.
5.2. Right, right.
Yeah, he went to college to learn PowerPoint, and now they use it for seventh graders. It's like, yeah,
Exactly.
that's just how it happens.
I have you talk about creativity. I use Canva for my social
Mhm.
media. In our district, Canva is free. I have my kids on Canva creating art, motion animation. Like, I'm ready to tap into them. And some teachers don't want to do it, but I'm an open mind. The math teacher and I are collaborating. Hey, could you do some statistics? We do the graph of the week, right? I'm trying to get them to think in analytical phases here. And I'm trying to get them to think. And so it's called Turner's Graph of the Week. I'm just going to read this to you. How will my students benefit? They'll become sharper analytical thinkers. Do you think young people need to do that?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
Yes. Students are given the opportunity to communicate their critical thinking and analysis through writing and classroom discussion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, love
Um, Common Core math, make sense of problems and persevere to solve them. What do you think about that?
it. Yep, I agree.
Um, uh, reason abstractively and quantitatively.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I think all this is needed.
Construct valid arguments and critique the reasoning of others.
Yep.
I my students love to argue, but you better come up with some facts. Let's get on Google Scholar. Download your source. It's got to be less than 5 years old. It's got to be a scholarly article. It's got to be a trusted source. We're not going on Wikipedia. We're not trusting some random stuff from the internet. I'm trying to make them think. And I've done this 6 or 7 years. I've been back to back to back. And our numbers are going up in math. Our numbers, but remember, they're still 3 years behind, four
Hmm.
years behind with reading levels. But I can see these young people, I can see their brains growing. Do you still think that is alive?
Yeah, I do. I do. Although there is one worry I have with AI, which luckily it seems like it's getting cracked down on, but from people I've talked to, maybe not. Um, but students are actually starting to use AI to answer questions on problems, or even go as far as to cheat on tests or write
Oh, you're about to
essays.
laugh. I got you on this. Finish your statement. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do. You're going to laugh so hard. So go ahead,
Yeah,
finish your
well,
statement.
the problem is they do have detection software, but
Yep.
sometimes they'll use an AI and then they'll actually change some of the wording a little bit, and then the detection software sometimes doesn't catch it.
Okay, so in school we have Go Guardian, right? On my screen, I can see all 25 kids. If they're on Instagram, lock it. TikTok, lock it. Now, our computer person, once you go on those sites enough, it'll leave a digital trail and he'll just lock it down. Okay. So it's funny, but yes, I do see kids trying to get that little AI model up and put in that question. So it's kind of a game of cat and mouse. Now, I'm not trying to hold creativity. I'm not trying to hold back their creativity, but you still need to problem solve. You still need to go on Google Scholar and what makes this source good? Don't trust Wikipedia. Your dog could write it. Your cat could write it. Um, I'm trying to. I'm. I'm glad we're in. Some districts embrace this. Some districts are scared. It's a time saver for me. It's my creative agent. But it does. You have to proofread everything.
Mhm.
Um, can AI write code?
Very little right now. I think at some
Okay.
point it will be able to do it at an advanced level, but right now, like if I wanted to make a video game with AI, it could only like make code for walking, maybe
Really?
code for yeah, maybe code for like basic dialogue, but it couldn't create like a camera code, like the
Hmm.
camera following the character, or it couldn't make like a full on like I don't know, if you're making a fighting or shooting game, you couldn't make like enemies and projectiles and fighting, and like it's only limited to like bare basic like walking, which is just snapping to an X and Y grid and just like,
Okay.
oh, move it 2 degrees on this grid is all of that is. But yeah, so it can code though. And I know that within the next few years it will be able to do that all. But right now it's only at like the bare basics for programming.
Do you think kids should build and create their own AI model? Like, you know, um, should kids 3, 4, 5 create their own AI model? I mean, for future, their own personal model, not something on the internet, but hey, mom, dad, with your permission, I want to develop this AI model on my phone, on our computer that is not connected to internet, not someone that's great. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be pretty cool, and it's definitely capable. One thing about AI models is you need to create the code for it to learn, and then you have to
Mm.
submit the things that it's learning. So, like, I've seen people in the artist category create AI models of their own art, right? So,
Woo!
and
Oh,
it's
interesting.
crazy. They submit all of their own art, and then they tell it to make new things of their own art, and no one would ever suspect that it's an AI making their work. I'll openly say I do not do that personally, but I do know a few people that do, and it is insane. You would never tell. You would never tell that it wasn't even the made by them, because they've already established themselves as this person, and they've trained it to just do what they do. So if you're trying to train it to do code, you have to create a bunch of code for it that it's
Mm.
copying. If you want to train it to do like music, you have to submit your kind of music. It's like you train it to be whatever you want. So that's when it's open source. That means it's taking everyone who uses it as information and training on that.
I like what you said. So I'm gonna share with you what's in my browser. DeepSeek AI, Chat GTP, Opus Clips, Quizzy, Graph of the Week, online timers. Um, what I found, and I'm starting to rely on AI more. Like if I'm in a hurry, hey, what did I do last week? Okay, AI, make what I did last week, but change it. It's a time saver for me. Um, do you think people will lose creativity using AI?
Um, Honestly, I don't know if you really do. Like a lot of people say, "Oh, it can't emulate those little things that humans and people could do." But like I've told it to do some wild stuff. Like I'd be like, "Oh, write this in the style of Winston Churchill," and AI could give this whole British sounding, like
Yes.
perfectly worded, even referencing like the way he would speak and things he'd say in this paragraph. And it's like, I don't know, it can almost copy it better than a person, or even do things better than a person, because it has the infinite knowledge of everything that's online. Like it knows more than you do. And because of
So,
that,
so let me ask you this. So, I look at my social media statistics, what videos are popping off, what titles are popping off. Like, you used to have to go to a firm. They would look at your data. Like I'm able to kind of predict titles. I'm able to predict what you still have to make the content. You still have to produce. There's still got to be a payoff. You can't have a disconnect. Like if you and I were doing something on coding, but we start talking about bananas, people would be like, bro, they're talking about bananas instead of coding. Um, um, I do a content calendar 30 days out, 45 days out. It's really made me more organized, more efficient. Um, do you think do you think it will create a separation, the have and the have not? What if I'm a kid in the city, in the hood? I can't afford my AI model, but you're in the suburb area. You got a little money, you can afford an AI model. Do you think it will create a separation, or do you think it will even out that separation? If you're good enough, if you're a kid in the hood, you're writing code, it's gonna stand out. If you're a
yeah,
guy in the suburb writing code, what do you think?
yeah, I think it'll even out. I actually think that's what it's going to do. As I said, even with game development, it used to be a selective thing. You had to have a lot of money. you had to have a lot of stuff, you had to have a lot of connections or know a lot of people to make something like that. Now, or soon, once AI is more developed, anyone could do it, even a 5-year-old kid. Anyone could go
Yep.
in, hey, go make this code, go do that. It's just going to be, honestly, by that point, it's going to have to be pure like originality, which that's going to be really hard. I mean, I've even looked at AI like, oh, come up with a business, right? Like, ever ask AI, oh,
Yes.
with a new soda, come up with a new food, and it comes up with stuff that's not currently out there. And that's sort of the thing is like, at some point, it seems like AI is going to be just like, yeah, it's going to even the playing field. Is just going to make it that everybody who's doesn't know certain things or doesn't have the connections or the money is going to be able to have access to things that only
Mhm.
someone who has that like higher upbringing would have.
I like what you're saying. Um, Before we close out, innovation. Um, if you could build in your area, do you need memory? Do you need storage? Do you need like the 5090 that costs over 2,000? What is your biggest need in your area? Is it storage? Is it a nice display? Is it the best graphics card? Is it a motherboard that does what do you need?
You 100% will need RAM. You're going to want like 48 gigs or more because that's
48.
your
I
load.
only got 16. I'm a gamer. Okay, so you need more
Okay,
RAM.
yeah, 16 is pretty low. You're
Okay,
definitely
I'm
going to
low
want
on
more.
RAM. Okay, baby.
So the reason being, when you are creating a game or creating something like that, even with AI, you'd need it too. You're rendering. You're actually
Yep.
like loading in all these things, and you're originally loading it in every single time. So, like with a video game, if you ever have a loading screen, your video game is pre-coded. It only needs to load that in once. Because you're constantly changing the code when you're programming, it's loading it in every single time you change it. So you're gonna constantly pretty much have a loading screen over and over and over again every time you make a small change. Kind of like video editing. Um,
Mm,
if you've ever done video editing on a computer and render a video or
yes.
even on your phone, like if you're
Yes.
rendering video or exporting it, when you're doing video games, you're doing that like very often, like every probably 20 minutes. So because of that, you want a lot of RAM and you want a good processor. So that's something you need an entirely different computer for. Like that's not you to replace your processor. You might as well buy a new computer when you're getting a different
Exactly.
processor. I would say you'd want an i9
Okay.
or higher, which is pretty. It's not modern, but it's like one under modern.
Okay.
Uh, an i7, I guess you could use, but like if you want it to be very fast, there's that. And then the graphics card's not too important for game development unless you're making like a Call of Duty type game where it's high in
Okay.
graphics. Like if it's a 2D game or a bare basic 3D game, you don't really need an insane graphics card like that $2,000 one you were mentioning. But yeah,
Okay.
that'd be about everything. Just RAM and processing.
My brother, I want to say thank you. It's truly a blessing having you on. I've learned so much about games and open source, open environment, creating a comfortable platform in my classroom where kids can take risk. Um, I've got a lot of high marks in my evaluation because I want to build a community where my students can take risk. I have a young lady, sixth grade. She is such a gifted drawer. Like she can
Hmm.
hand draw incredible works of art and little creatures. And I'm like, wow. Like, I mean, she does it freehand. I'm like, I'm just gonna give you Canva, let you eat, let you create. I try not to give guardrails. I have a rubric. If you want to get an A or B or C, you need to do X, Y, Z, one, two, three. And a lot of these kids are really surprising me with their creativity and their assignments. Um, if you could have something in a high school or middle school in terms of software or design, what would you want to see?
Mm.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah,
Come
that's
on.
that's a that's a tough one. Oh man, yeah. So I mean, we have a Python class at the high school I
Woo!
went to, but it wasn't that good. It honestly just touched the bare basics. Um, I kind of feel like maybe there. I don't even know what software I'd recommend because it's kind of like what would you want to do? Maybe like if it were for game development, it'd be like Click Team Fusion. But if it were for pure programming, you would maybe want to have like Linux or something, like, or
Yes.
even a Raspberry Pi, if you know what that
Yes.
is. Like, just let people
My bro, come
program
on, man.
themselves.
I go to Micro Center, baby. That's
Yeah,
that's my place. Man, come on, bro. Come on. Come on. I don't want to go there because I start buying video cards. And, you know, I'm just waiting for the right time to upgrade.
yeah,
I usually build my own computers, but time is money, money's time. I'm gonna get you said at least 48 gigs of RAM. I know what I want to do. I know my 4070 Ti is fine, but if I can get it custom built, I'm gonna max out the RAM, max out the
yeah.
storage.
Your
Um,
4070 Ti is good. That's all the graphics you would ever really need. So yeah, that's good.
okay, brother. I just want to say thank you. Um, I'll send you some text. We can edit this, cut it down. Um, when we get off, why don't you call me? We'll talk a couple minutes so I can get this content to you. It's been awesome. It's been great. Bye.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you.